With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time to come to the spiritual home of sports car racing here in the Precision Racing League GTP, LMP2 and GT3 series live on RaceSpotTV. We are in the closing stages of the season and everything is heating up. Looking forward to bringing you some great action from the virtual French countryside. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box is Dara Thacker, and Hugo Luis is behind the scenes pressing all of the buttons. Dara, well, we are in the third last round of the season, and we've got a European triple to end off the season after the action-packed Streets of Long Beach round last week.
Yeah, and only 3 rounds to pick up points to the end of the season, so drivers have to be on it right here, right now. Of course, going into Algarve, you don't really want to be leaving yourself too much to do. So points here at the Circuit de l'Azard are going to be critical, and a long old circuit, probably less lapping to worry about for the drivers tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Algarve and Spa to end off the season. And this is how things are starting to look in the Drivers' Championship battle in the GTP class. Brandon Wilson is on top at the moment, only by 10 points over Timothy Larson. Timothy had success elude him for a few rounds, but he came back with a dominant victory at Long Beach, so he's narrowed that championship gap a little bit, beating Brandon on strategy. But can he do the same here and narrow that championship gap even more into the second last round next week? Equal on points for third between Nathan Ray and Graham Wildman. Both fan clubs in the YouTube chat are going to be loving that battle, but Miguel Rios is on the outside looking in, only a few points separating him from them. Aerokinetics Night Blind Racing is on top in the GTP team standings, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to catch them. Valhalla Motorsports is trailing a long way behind there, some 60 points separating them. But Solpic Precision Racing and Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Design equal on points for third. Very close down the standings as well. Waterback and Hyperion separated by 23. In the LMP2 driver standings, Alex Caruso has been the dominant force this season, but Justin Barrera snuck in the first non-Alex C victory, putting Caruso and Crow back to second and third last week, and he's gained a lot of points up to second place in the championship, only 3 points separating him from Alex Crow, and Caleb Lehman, Kurt Goodson, and Doug Sorrentino are right there too. Hyperion Racing LMP2 is absolutely dominating the team standings in the meantime. Only 3 points between Waterback and Driven Performance Esports Pro. That's a battle to watch out for sure. In the GT3 standings, man, things have been all in the favor of Derek Heiberger, with Luke Wallace trailing behind a little further than he did in the past, but it's still a good battle between those teammates up the top of the championship. Feliz, Kaufhold, and Ostrich, 1 point covering those 3 drivers: Eduardo Aguiar, Tony Costello, Devin Young, and Matthew Wyckoff. They're all very close almost in the top 10. There could be some changes depending on the results tonight. And Hyperion Racing GT3, well, they have won all but one round this season, and they are dominant, sheer dominance, 116 points ahead of Valhalla Motorsports. And looking down the standings, I don't think there's going to be too much change going into this round, but there is a fair chance. Blue Chip Racing and SRTE Orange only separated by 11 points in this league that is brought to you by many fantastic sponsors. First of all, Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. Use code PRECISION at checkout on logitechg.com for 5 to 10% off your purchase. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotTV.com and get a 5% discount there using the Precision5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk. Last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. And, well, with that, we can get into the action here, Dara. Qualifying time. And I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be on top here. It's a very long outlap here at Le Mans. Well, I mean, not so much a long outlap, but just a long lap full stop. They start on the run up to the final corners in qualifying, but this is a 13-kilometer long track, taking about 3.5 minutes to negotiate in the fastest class tonight. So we're going to be waiting a while.
We are, but it also means that the drivers don't have many attempts at this lap time at all. They really have to perform immediately in qualifying. They cannot afford to, have a couple of sighter laps and make a couple of mistakes, because then all of a sudden they may not even get a third lap time in. It really is important to get the lap time in now, and we'll see what the GTPs can do. Obviously going to cross the line first, then we'll see what the LMP2s can do, and then the GT3s in that kind of staggered fashion. But this really is a circuit where you can gain and lose so much time, particularly towards the end of the lap, that the Porsche curves, even to the final couple of chicanes, you can make or break a lap there, and gutting really to break it, especially if you feel like you're going quite well for the first 12.5 kilometers.
Yeah, indeed. Well, approaching the end of the lap now is Ryan Long in the Hyperion LMP2, and these cars have always been quick throughout the course of the season. The blue cars in this middle class of the championship. We'll have to wait and see as the times start flowing in who's going to get the best run here. Long approaching the final couple of corners as Brandon Wilson takes provisional pole in GTP, and Long is one of the first of our LMP2s across the line, a 3:36.4, but that's 0.2 slower than what Alex Crowe just set. Alex Caruso, in fact, beating Ryan Long by a full second on his first attempt. They're only going to have one more lap here to get in. If that, because it's a hard cut, I believe, to the end of the qualifying session since it's solo. Doug Evans coming to the line in the Corvette GT3. We'll see what he can do versus Jeff Kaufholder, 3:58 on that. 4 minutes and 2 seconds is Doug's first time.
Yeah, let's see if anybody can be improving. Timothy Fries-Larson's got it close to Brandon Wilson. He's going once again for what should be, I think you're absolutely right, the second and final lap time that these guys are able to set. Everybody will get a second lap time in, but no one will be able to get a third before the time it hits 0. Aaron Beaver has just popped it up into the top 5 in the GTPs as well. A lot of drivers not setting lap times in those first runs. That's going to be absolutely crucial, because so many drivers that are going to be competitive in the championship are going to find themselves further down the order, going to find themselves themselves having to fight their way through. And then a circuit where, you know, the majority, half of the opening lap is pretty much straights until you get to the back of the circuit, where you've been racing for 3 minutes. It's going to be difficult to make moves early on, so really important to get these lap times in. And we're seeing, you know, some of the cream of the crop in these classes rise to the top early on.
Yeah, we certainly are. But tell you what, a really big statement from Darian Roy, getting a 3-minute 22 on board in the Cadillac. Now, the Cadillac GTP is definitely superior on straight line speed. At Road America and Monza, the Cadillacs were really taking the fight to the Acuras. So, got to keep an eye out for those Cadillacs, particularly from Valhalla Motorsports, to get themselves onto the top spot in qualifying. And the Acuras are going to have to really make sure that they get into the slipstream. You'll see Timothy Larson here making his way down to Indianapolis, and the straight line speed is not as high as it is in the Cadillacs, but once they get to the corners, the Acura handles like a dream, or so I'm told. Here we go up to Arnage then. Got to make sure that the exit is perfect here, because it's another long straight up to the Porsche curves where you can really take advantage of the superior downforce of these GTPs.
Yeah, it really is impressive just to watch these cars go through some of the higher speed corners on the circuit, because the amount of downforce that these cars can generate is just sublime, and we'll see it through the Porsche curves. Timothy Vries Larson, I mean, you really shouldn't be able to go that fast through the Porsche curves, but the car's just, you know, nimble, light, they can pick their way through. I mean, the cameras are struggling to keep up. That's quite how fast they're going. And Vries Larson will be targeting a pole position here, just trying to keep all the momentum up, all the commitment, as much throttle as he dares. He's only got a couple more chicanes to go, and then he'll sit the lap time.
Apex speed at the second of the Porsche curves was 280 kilometers per hour. That's the kind of speeds you reach at the end of Conrod Straight at Bathurst in any other car. Well, across the line, Timothy will come, and it's a 318.3, and that is going to be provisional pole there, ahead of Brandon Wilson and Nathan Ray, who also got big improvements on that second lap. And I think they'll have to, all the other drivers will have to really pull out the stops to make sure they get up there too. Nicholas Schwartz just popping in a 322.9, not the best time he would be looking for there. Luke Wallace, meanwhile, with 2 minutes to go in the session, just reaching Mulsanne curve. Luke Wallace is second place in the GT3 standings with his teammate Derek Heiberger at Hyperion. And currently, it's Jim Feliz who's actually on top. Wallace still P2 in qualifying. Derek, it seems, is not present this week. Oh, actually, he is. He's all the way down at the bottom of the standings on my timing screen. Hasn't set a lap time yet. We'll have to wait and see if he can actually get one in here, because it can be very easy to pick up off tracks here at Le Mans. Oh, actually, there goes Derek.
Good timing, 355.4. I mean, it offsets Luke Wallace, who was only a couple of hundredths behind Jim Felice's time as he comes through. He is only just about going to make the line, but he will indeed make the line. We also saw Ryan Long and Alex Caruso swapping positions for that provisional pole in the LMP2s. 800ths of a second over a 3.5 minute lap is absolutely nothing. It's a blink of an eye over 3.5 minutes. Incredible to see those two so close together in qualifying. Luke Wallace not quite as impressive in terms of the high speed through the Porsche curves, but it's still going to be competitive, I'm sure. Let's see if he can get himself at least to the front row, because that's only a couple of hundredths away from him right now.
Indeed. Wallace down to third now. Jim Feliz has actually put in a fantastic time there. Some great form there for Jim, but can Luke Wallace beat it is the question. Up to the Ford chicane, the final sequence of this lap. So difficult to pick your line in here. You're slowing down all the while. You want to maintain apex speed, but you've got to be careful not to induce understeer. It'll ruin your run to the start-finish line. 3 minutes 55 is the time to beat, and he sets a 3:55. That does put Jim Feliz down to third, and it is a 1-2 once again in qualifying for Hyperion. And at the end of the session, Miguel Rios not able to get another time in. He'll have to settle for 7th place on the GTP grid for the time being. Well then, qualifying run and done. Our pole sitters, Timothy Larson in GTP, Ryan Long in LMP2, and Derek Heiberger in GT3. That is very impressive from Ryan Long. That is the first time we've seen Long on pole this season. It is still a Hyperion on top in LMP2, but not the one that we were expecting.
Yeah, I mean, Long's had a bit of an up and down season, hasn't he? Of course, did not finish the opening race. He didn't start round number 3 either. And a little bit of an up and down season. He's got 3 top 5s in the other races, so he's clearly been there or thereabouts, as we've seen throughout the season. But a little drop off last week. He's clearly back and ready to really push on this week. Impressive to see him get to the front of the field. It's going to be a case of, can he maintain that lead across the opening lap and beyond? Of course, an hour's long race here. I mean, we're looking at, I mean, what, 16, 17 laps for the overall race winner, we'll have to say.
Yeah, we certainly will. Checking out the LMP2 pole lap here from Ryan Long, who joins us now. Ryan, congratulations on pole. Still Hyperion on top in LMP2, but for once it's not Alex.
Yeah, I've been practicing all week and just chasing Alex down, and I think I just put together just enough of the right lap, and it all worked out at the very end. The conditions are a little different, but it felt good.
The gear ratio in the LMP2 cannot be adjusted at any other track, and it's really set up for that top speed here at Le Mans. You're already into 6th gear coming on to the Mulsanne straight. You're trimming out the car as much as you possibly can using that special low downforce Le Mans aero package. What's it like in the slow corners?
It's honestly not too bad because of the kind of how they slowed it down this season. You can get it slowed down pretty good, and it hooks up pretty well. The Porsche curves with my current setup are a little sketchy, and then the wind pushing from behind, it gets a little bit understeery, but it's honestly not too bad. And then even in the slow stuff, just it pulls right out of it.
I notice as well, you flicked over to the other side of the Mulsanne straight between the chicanes pretty quickly. There is a crown in the road that you don't really want to ride in these cars either.
Correct. I know the GT3s can take them down the middle like that. They use it to get a little bit closer to the ground for more aero speed. But us LMPs, and I think maybe even the GTPs, we just stay away from them. They slow us down.
Yeah, well, out to Mulsanne corner now. It's going to be one of the big overtaking opportunities of the lap. So thinking ahead to lap 1 of the race, I suppose your goal is to either try and get a gap or maybe work together with your teammates to try and get ahead of everybody else. The slipstream is going to be very important here.
Yeah, there's a huge headwind coming all the way down the Mulsanne straight. So I think if Alex and I can maybe hook up, maybe do a little NASCAR bump drafting. Last week was Daytona. Go all the way down the straight, maybe pull away from the group and do our own thing.
And Indianapolis, the corner we're looking at the moment, it's very fearsome in any car, but in the LMP2, it looked like it just gripped up. Did it feel that way behind the wheel?
Yeah, it's got just enough banking in there in the apex to kind of just, it holds the car. You just get on the gas and it just goes right out to the outside, and it feels good. It's a little sketchy coming in at the high speed, but it all works out.
And then up to the Porsche curves and the final sequence of the lap. Your turn-in point, incredibly important on your way through. You're still carrying a great amount of speed, but looking at your wheel work, it looked like in the first part of the Porsche curves, the wheels scrubbed a little bit.
Yeah, it's just trying to find that perfect line through there, and if you're just a little bit off, you kind of have to adjust, and so it's just hitting the curbs just right, maybe going up the throttle if you need to, and just finding that perfect line will be huge for the race.
Yeah, certainly will. Well, the end of the lap is now upon us, and that is how you got pole position for this round of the PRL, GTP, LMP2, and GT3 series. Congratulations, Ryan, on pole position once again, and best of luck in the race.
Thank you again, guys.
Ryan Long there. Brilliant lap that he set, and we can go through the grid for this race. Timothy Larson and Brandon Wilson, our championship protagonists in GTP, on the front row. Nathan Ray and Jeff Evans on row 2. Graham Wildman sneaked his way up to 5th, starting alongside Stephen Finch in the Ferrari 499P. Miguel Rios and Dave Menino on row 4. Darian Roy and Nicholas Schwartz round out your top 10. With Aaron Beaver, the last car to set a time. Bradley Holly starts in 12th. Austin McGill and Joseph Blommel did not set times in qualifying. Let's see how they can work their way up. In LMP2, Ryan Long takes pole position. Alex Caruso alongside him, LMP2 championship leader. Alex Crow and Caleb Lehman on the second row. Evan Henneman and Kevin Bergquist are 5th and 6th. And then Sam Shreves alongside Eric Harmon on row 4. Matt Brewer and Ian Cabana make it only 10 LMP2s for this round of the championship. It's also a slightly smaller field than GT3 too, but it is the front row lockout again for Hyperion, Heiberger and Wallace. With Jim Feliz and Thomas Dunn 3rd and 4th. Thomas managed to get a podium last week at Long Beach. Let's see if he can repeat that here. Kaufhold and Wyckoff in the Valhalla cars start on the 3rd row. Matthew Maturo and Adam Ostrich share row 4. Willie Brennan and Thomas Baker in the 2 Porsches there on 9th and 10th. Doug Evans and David Schmidt round out your GT3 field. Well, that's everybody, Dara. Now we can get into the racing. A 1-hour race here with a pit stop required for all of our classes, but the track length comes into play once again here because it's so long. It is around 3 to 4 times longer than any other track we go to this season, and so it's going to be a lot more important when you pick your pit stop lap.
And it's not like it's a circuit where you can save a ton of fuel, is it? I mean, you can't be lifting and coasting down the Mulsanne very much. So I think it's going to be quite a narrow pit window for a lot of these cars. Being in the slipstream, of course, will be helpful, but at the same time, I can't imagine that there's going to be a very big variance in when drivers decide to come down pit road. They'll want to try and extend that stint as long as possible, of course, to run down the fuel tank, spend as little time as they need to in the pit lane. But yeah, it's not going to be a wide pit window, and I generally think the drivers will know that, and they will fight accordingly more on the circuit than we might otherwise see.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the Circuit de la Sarthe has seen history made 1,000,000 times over since the first 24-hour race in 1923. And there's been plenty of sim racing history made on this track as well. Let's see what the PRL can etch into it this time. The GTPs are really aggressive on the tire weaves, which makes me think about the track temperature. Oh, it's low, 19 degrees Celsius, same as the air temperature. So there's going to be an awful lot that the drivers will need to do with not much opportunity to warm those tires on their way through.
I wouldn't mind if it was 19 degrees where I am right now, to be fair, but it's not the warmest for track conditions and for surface temps either. Very, very cold. Often when you see the sun out, it will rise about 15, 20 degrees higher, but with the sun not high in the sky as it could be, it's not necessarily going to be the easiest race as the tricolour flies past.
Indeed, the French Air Force flying their way across the start-finish straight of the circuit. This is where the anticipation builds, and we get ready for the start here. Timothy Larson versus Brandon Wilson as the green flag flies, and it looks like Timothy was caught out there by the green flag. Nathan Ray has just slipped himself up to the lead right away there. Up 2 positions already as they're 3 wide in the pack. That's Graham Wildman, Stephen Finch, and Timothy Larson. It has been an absolute horror start for our pole sitter. He's going to have to focus on making up those positions right away as the LMP2 and GT3 fields get off to a much more orderly start.
Yeah, Larson's going to be absolutely furious, either with himself or with drivers around. I'm not too sure just yet, but he's not going to be happy because losing that many positions off at the start is exactly what he would have been trying to avoid. 1st to 6th by turn 1, basically. Really, really bad spot. The GT3's making their way through, but that could have gone worse.
Yeah, and Alex Crow, championship leader in LMP2, had an off at the Dunlop chicane there. He unfortunately lost the rear end under brakes, and so now he's back in the GT3 pack trying to fight his way through as Nathan Ray weaves ahead of Brandon Wilson there. Look at this pack for GTP as well. Jeff Evans finding his way up to the podium spots there. Jeff is just having an incredible run right now, and Wildman unfortunately messes up the exit of that chicane a little, putting him under pressure from Finch and Larson.
Yeah, it's a massive fist fight, quite frankly, for P4. 3 of them going at it. I thought there was going to be big contact into the corner. They've just about got away with it. Stephen Finch is one of them as they run their way down to the second of the 2 chicanes down the Mulsanne. I think it's just about going to single file out before we get into the corner, but dramatic start, really dramatic start in the GTPs. I don't think we could have predicted our pole sitters to go from first to sixth and pretty much a 3-wide moment into the first chicane on the Mulsanne. As we see more fighting, Brandon Wilson going for the lead.
Here we go then. He picked up the slipstream off Nathan Ray, and he's going to move ahead by just a smidge here. They're banging wheels down the straight as they come down to Mulsanne corner. Wilson has the inside, and Ray trying to fight him under brakes, but Wilson gets the lead.
Yeah, fantastically done. It knew what line he had to be on, got to the inside line, and from that point on, Nathan Ray can't really lay claim around the outside because Wilson had the momentum, he had the pace, and he covered off that line very easily. The 444 doing textbook work down there. Nathan Ray's going to have to find somewhere else to make the move back past him. First opportunity is up at Indianapolis, but it feels like he's a little bit too far back to make it now.
Yeah, the Cadillac is definitely superior to the Acura on straight line speed, but couldn't make up the gap there as the GTPs make their way into Indianapolis for the first time. That was a very brave move by Timothy Larson, forces Dave Menino out wide and into the gravel trap there. Menino under pressure from Darian Roy now, who was very performant in qualifying. It's an absolute jumble in GTP right now, to say nothing of Alex Crow's race in LMP2 so far. He had another spin coming out of the second Mulsanne chicane, and so our LMP2 championship leader has a long fight ahead of him. This is the first thing that happened to Alex Crow. Just got on the brakes, and it looked like a bit of a compression lock on the downshifts there. He was also slightly offline and hit the bumps the wrong way, so that's not ideal for him. Had to fight his way through the GT3s once, and he had to do it again down the Mulsanne straight.
Yeah, and you can see he's 14 seconds, or you could just about see he's 14 seconds off the back of the pack, and Ian Cabana, so he's got a lot of work to do in that 990, but he is clear of those GT3s now, and he can just start to try and, you know, reel in the rest of his class, but difficult. You don't really want to be giving yourself that kind of difficulty off of the start. Wanted to quickly mention in the GTPs, it's been such a frantic start that only 3 drivers of the 14 have stayed in the same position that they started the race in. It's been absolute chaos as we see Fries Larsen try and make, rectify some of the positions back through the field. It's not been the best of starts, but he's trying to make good of it.
Already back up to 5th, passing Graham Wildman there through the S's. These are some fantastic camera angles, really showing off the speed that these GTPs take through those fast corners. Now onto the Mulsanne. Can he pick up the slipstream off the Ferrari of Stephen Finch? Meanwhile, in GT3, there were major dramas on the first lap for Matthew Wyckoff. It looks like Wyckoff got on the brakes way too late for Indianapolis and nearly wiped out his teammate in the process. So Wyckoff is our first retirement of the race. Doug Evans joining him, unfortunately. I'm not too sure what happened to Doug, but in GT3, Derek Heiberger is on top. This is Wyckoff here, just way too late on the brakes, and then hard into the barrier once and twice, and that's completely destroyed the rear end of his machine, and he had to escape back to the pits.
Yeah, not really what he wanted at the start of the race, and having to tow back to the pit lane, or even get into the pit lane in a race like this with such a long lap. It's going to be so damaging to any driver, so you really want to avoid that. Shame that he hasn't been able to do so. Only 5 minutes have gone, but we have seen action, wall-to-wall action from the start of this race. Great to see that the battles are still ongoing, particularly in that GTP fight, but the LMP2s are not leaving each other be either.
Yeah, certainly not. There's Timothy Larson behind Stephen Finch still, but he's made up a good gap there, picking up the slipstream off the Ferrari, and the punch out of Mulsanne is probably a little better for the GTPs than it is for that Ferrari hypercar. We'll have to wait and see what the full story of that is at the end of the straight here. It actually seems like Finch is keeping up very nicely with Jeff Evans here, who we see in a Cadillac. Usually this season we found him in an Acura, but looks like he's decided to swap to the Cadillac for the high-speed circuit at Le Mans. Into Arnage. It's all about the exit, as I said in qualifying. You got to be careful over that curb on entry as well. Little blink for Timothy Larson. Some technical issues here for the European driver. We'll have to wait and see if that's going to keep going for him, but it seems like he sorted it for now. It definitely is a battle for third on back in LMP2, but Ryan Long and Alex Caruso, looks like a magnificent run here for Alex Caruso. Who actually, I've gone and confused Alex Caruso and Alex Crow again. I do apologize for that. This is our LMP2 championship leader, and he's working with his teammate really nicely. They got a huge gap over the rest of the field.
Yeah, and I can't imagine they're going to start fighting anytime soon. This is a fantastic position for them to be in, as individuals, as drivers, but also as the team. They can start fighting later on in the race, but now there's no real point in doing so. Building a gap is going to be target number one, and with 7 minutes gone and a 5-second gap behind them, going to be loving life right now. It's exactly what they needed off of the start. Almost in direct stark contrast what we've seen happen with Fries Larsen, as Aaron Beavers had an issue down at the final chicane, but really just show the difference between what can happen in the GTPs and the LMP2s in the early stages, and it's incredible that they've had such different outcomes so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like for Beaver, it was a case of taking a bit too much of the sausage curb, and that unsettled his Porsche 963, the only Porsche in the GTP field. And that's how it happened for him. Just too much of the red curb there, and big old bounceroonie, and around he went. That's a shame there for Aaron, but he can recover. Meanwhile, Larson sticking in the slipstream of Mr. Finch, as Graham Wildman is now falling under pressure from Dave Menino. And it looks like Larson's made his way past Finch, and Stephen's gone off there at the chicane. Something going massively wrong for those two. So hopefully we'll get a view as to what happened there. But for now, that's potentially another position for Wildman and Menino.
Yeah, and they're gaining down the straight. I don't think they're quite gaining enough to make any kind of move into the second chicane, but definitely not exactly what Stephen Finch had in mind. Menino looking like he's almost dummying for the move. It's going to pull back into the terrain as they make their way into the chicane. But yeah, Stephen Finch with the suboptimal line bouncing through the gravel. We'll have to try and see why that was, but losing out the position and losing quite a bit of time as well. Got to regroup, got to try and gain back and maybe go for Larson once again.
Yep, getting up to over 300 kilometers per hour down these stretches of the Mulsanne Straight, and well, he finds his way nicely into Mulsanne Corner itself, but they're all taking all of the curb and then some on their way out of the corner. They are pushing as hard as they can in these GTPs to get the maximum speed down the following straight. Well, for now, Finch leading what is effectively a pack for 5th place in GTP. And in terms of positions gained, there isn't much to talk about in GTP other than Austin McGill, who is up 4 places. He's all on his own behind this pack. But look at how close Larson is already getting to Jeff Evans here. Brandon Wilson and Nathan Ray, they aren't within a second of each other. They're not getting any slipstream. So it's all down to Timothy Larson here to see if he can be the fastest of them all and try and catch them up before the hour is done.
Yeah, the problem for Larson, of course, and you mentioned it with Wilson and Ray not being a second, or within a second, is that there's 5 seconds between Wilson and Ray. Wilson really has delivered in the opening 10 minutes in pulling a gap and getting himself a little bit of wiggle room to the rest of the field, and particularly to Larson, who's coming back through. So that's a difficulty that the number 12 is going to have to overcome. Jeff Evans is obviously difficulty number 1, but then from there, he has to try and reel in drivers who were really competitive with him in qualifying, and that's not going to be quite as easy. But as recovery go, it's been a decent 5-6 minutes for Larson. I think he'd be very pleased to get this moved on Evans in the next half a lap or so.
Yeah, certainly. Well, this is the onboard from Timothy Larson passing Stephen Finch, and it was a good move. He managed to flick up the inside there. Unfortunately, Finch could not take his optimal line and ended up locking up and going wide into the gravel trap there. Well, it certainly could have been worse. We've certainly seen plenty of damaged GTPs this season. It's been quite a chaotic season in the GTP, LMP2 and GT3 series. Change for position. Austin McGill has found his way up to the pack, and his first target is Miguel Rios, but it's a staunch defense here from Miguel.
Yeah, coming down the hill, just out of the opening chicane, and you could just about see that Miguel had the optimal line, and Austin wasn't prepared to fight it around the outside. Difficult to really judge exactly when you're on the outside line there, exactly how much speed to take through, because the right handle that comes up before Turch Rouge is not the slowest. It's quite a high-speed corner, so probably smart for Austin to back out of that one a little bit there and wait his chance for yet another go at the move. But still, clearly, you can see that there's a little bit of ambition there, and maybe you're moving the offing.
Back to GT3, Thomas Dunn and Matthew Maturo, the teammates at Blue Chip Racing in the Porsches. They're doing quite well at the moment, 4th and 5th. They did recently trade positions. Dunn got past Maturo on this lap at some point. They've got to keep an eye out for Willie Brennan in their fellow Porsche behind for Hyperion, but for now, playing the team game very nicely.
Yeah, good to see that we've got teammates working together. It's always a positive. Clearly, there's a good spirit within the team when we see teamwork like this, and it enables them to maybe try and work their way up towards the top 3. Looks like it's going to be a difficult task with that gap already over the 10-second mark, but at the very least, it can keep them in the positions that they currently occupy, and that could be crucial for their championships, not just individually, but as a team as well.
Elsewhere, as we check out the LMP2 battle here, it's Sam Shreves and Evan Henneman fighting over 4th place. It looks like the disaster has continued to compound for Valhalla Motorsports in GT3. It looks like Jeff Kaufhold has just retired from the race himself, so he and Matthew Wyckoff will not get a result here today. Such a shame, and it looks like big damage on both Ferraris, so it's unfortunate to say the least. For now, though, keep an eye on Evan Henneman as he actually goes deep at the second Mulsanne chicane, and his expression says it all. He wasn't too happy with that one. It's very easy to lock the brakes in the LMP2s. You time the downshifts wrong, or you get on the brakes a bit too hard, a bit too late, and go over the bumps the wrong way. Those cars don't have anti-lock braking systems, so you got to be careful on the stop pedal.
And I think a few of the drivers will have been coping with it slightly better than others. Of course, slight adjustment to make, especially when you're down at the end of a long straight. But down at Mulsanne corner, it's a little bit more difficult to judge the braking zone, but I think a lot of the drivers have it nailed down. But the characteristics of the cars, significantly different, really, to all be in the same series, but drivers pick their cars, they're happy with them. We've seen a lot of these drivers, particularly in the GT3s, participate on a Tuesday night in the GT3 Fix and Sprint series in the PRL. We've seen them on Monday nights previously when we've had GT3s feature there as well. So clearly there's a lot of GT3 action. GTPs, of course, have been on a Thursday night for a while, and a lot of the drivers return and get to know their machines pretty well. But the LMP2 is not around for a little while, back again in the PRL, and it's good to see that there's a good composition within that car, even though we've not seen it for quite a while.
Yeah, indeed. Have a look at this GTP battle. This is frankly incredible. The train that we're seeing here. Jeff Evans has fallen behind Stephen Finch now. Larson passed him on the previous lap or so, and now he's fallen back into the clutches of everybody else. But he gets a good run out of Tetra Rouge, a corner that is very easy to mess up. Super fast kink on your way onto the fastest straight, potentially in all of iRacing on the roadside. Can he get anything done into the first of our chicanes? He cannot, but Graham Wildman fancies a chance at the second one. Look at how he rides the curbs. That's a very staunch exit there from the orange machine, and Evans actually getting a slowdown penalty through that chicane, and he falls all the way to the back of the pack and out of slipstream range. That is disastrous for Jeff.
Shows how critical it can be to just to keep it on the circuit. Yes, he may have gained a tenth or so by illegally going off the circuit, but look at how much it's cost him. 4 positions and a hell of a lot of time as well. Actually 5 positions and a lot of time as well. So really, shows the importance of keeping on the circuit, avoiding those slowdown penalties, because they can be so costly, particularly at a part of the circuit like the Mulsanne. And I think a lot of the drivers are going to be very careful in their lives, particularly in his group, because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's certainly not ideal for Jeff. He'll likely be able to catch up once he gets a rhythm going. For now, though, Austin McGill finally getting past Miguel Rios there. Both McGill and Rios have had great results this season. And now it's Dave Menino who's going to be watching on in the mirror as they battle behind side by side into Indianapolis, which is not the most ideal corner to go side by side into. And it looks like McGill has decided discretion is the better part of valor and allowed Rios to retake the position, but he still has a look at Arnage to try and unsettle him.
Just trying to pick a way through here and almost surprising with a move at some of these corners. If he can't make it at some conventional points, McGill will be trailing up towards the important set of corners, starting at the Porsche curves, of course, going into the right-hander. There's nothing really that's going to be on through here, but you can get into the mirrors. You can almost make the driver in front double guess themselves, put them offline, not give them a mistake, but almost force them into a mistake, and then pick your line through and make the position that you were hoping to get. So this could be really crucial as we see Friese Larsen making a move.
Oh, yeah, up into second place for Timothy Larson now. He's caught up to Nathan Ray and gotten past him. So the advantage for the Cadillac doesn't seem as large as I thought it would be. Nathan Ray has lost all of that time to Brandon Wilson, and now the gap is, nearly 9 seconds or so from Larson to Wilson. Can Timothy make that up? I mean, he was only 0.2 faster than Wilson on that lap, so it's going to be a long, hard job to try and catch him up. Meanwhile, the battle's still going on here between Rios and McGill. Rios coming off a podium last week at Long Beach was not able, so McGill wasn't able to get past him in the end. Our LMP2 leaders, meanwhile, this is the only pair of LMP2 cars that are within a second of each other on track. Alex Caruso passing Ryan Long for the lead some time ago, and they're keeping things up very nicely at Hyperion. Caruso looking to cruise to yet another victory in a season where he's got all but 2.
Yeah, it's been so impressive to see. I mean, he has his name is littering the records page even more with every passing race. It currently holds the best average starting position for anyone who's raced at least 5 times in LMP2s. He's got his name 3rd on the all-time winners list in the PRL in the LMP2s. He could get himself in sole 3rd position if he wins here today. It's been so impressive just to see how he's been able to deliver week after week and really have a fantastic win to top 5 ratio. He's got 6 wins and 12 top 5s in the LMP2s, which is really impressive to see. Let's see if he can keep this up. It's interesting as well, Reese, that we're starting to see the lapping occur for the first time. It's taken us nearly 20 minutes, but it's upon us now.
Yeah, certainly is. This long circuit means that it takes a while for the GTPs to make their way around to lap the GT3s for the first time. And it's looking reasonably clean so far. It's fortunate that they've come up on these GT3s on the Mulsanne straight. If they came up on them in the Porsche curves, it would be a lot more difficult to work out there. A lot of dust and gravel being thrown up on the exit as they try to negotiate each other. Well, Finch still leads this battle for what is now 4th. Graham Wildman starting to line him up here. You can always count on Graham for a bit of aggression in these races and try to fight his way up. He will have a look, but it won't be done at Indianapolis. Meanwhile, McGill still struggling to try and find his way past Miguel Rios. Miguel putting on a fantastic defense here, and he's been using the traffic to his advantage too.
Oh, I don't know if he's going to be able to use it here. Austin McGill around the outside is going to be closer. They're going to go either side. They have gone either side, and I think that's the move done for Austin McGill. Indeed, he's got his way past here as they run the way up. Or has he? They're locked side by side into the Porsche curves. This is not where you want to be being, on the outside line into the Porsche curve. Austin McGill, can he hook it, or will he allow the inside line to take the position? It'll be Miguel Rios who holds the line. McGill not finding that one too hard, but they've got more traffic to work through.
Oh, that's one of the Hyperion GT3s there of Willie Brennan that they found their way past. Tell you what I'm noticing here is Miguel is putting his car in all the right spots where it counts. He didn't get the exit that he wanted from Arnage, but he held the inside, and he got the inside into the Porsche curves. And if you're on the inside there, well, you're basically guaranteed to keep the position there unless your rival does something spectacular. McGill not able to find the grip in the tires to get that done, and deciding it's better to wait once more. What I will say though is they are still in touch with the other GTPs, so I think they won't be losing too much time battling with each other as they are. Thomas Dunn just behind them. now has separated that battle ever so slightly, but they're right back on it by the time they get to the next corner. Wildman, meanwhile, has gotten past Stephen Finch.
Yeah, good move, and Finch is having a slightly difficult time at the moment. Of course, he was in the top 3, then fell behind Timothy Larson, now falling behind Graham Wildman as well. Got to be careful and look in the wing mirrors, because there's a chasing pack led by Dave Menino now as well. So it's not been the best of 10-15 minutes or so for the 182, but still there is possibility there. Still there is a chance to work our way back through, because traffic is still going to be apparent, and it still will affect the driver in front. You can just about see that behind Dave Menino, having a bit of a Dave Menino oh no moment, getting behind the GT3.
Luke Wallace!
Oh my word!
That's Luke Wallace, was running second in GT3. There's been a massive coming together, I think. Either that or he's made a mistake on his own and hit the wall. As Bradley Holly and Aaron Beaver trade spots, Rios and Menino trading spots here. Rios has gained a massive advantage through all of that. I think Menino might have backed off or had to find his way past a GT3. Rios now up to 6th place and is playing this race pretty well at the moment. Finally up 1 place on his starting spot, but that is a disaster once again in GT3, this time for Hyperion and Luke Wallace. Here comes Stephen Finch to try and get back past Graham Wildman, meanwhile, into Mulsanne, outside line. Oh, a little bit of contact on the way through, but they escape damage, and Finch will have the nose ahead coming out of the corner. Now there's the GT3 leader of Derek Heiberger. They'll be able to find their way past. Wildman decides to tuck his nose in and get some slipstream. Let's see where they catch up to him here. Heiberger topping out at about 270 k's an hour at that point of the straight. Short work of getting past him.
Fantastically done as well from the 182. Great to see him move around the outside at the Mulsanne corner, because as we've mentioned, it's difficult to do, but he was able to stick it through enough that he was able to claim or lay claim to an outside line. Let's have a look at what's happened to Luke Wallace.
Oh,
Is
no.
It help? And that's teammates, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Oh, no. That was Larson coming through on him. And, well, I think there's going to be a big debrief for Hyperion after that one. Oh, that's such a shame to see. And, I mean, it looked kind of netcodey as well. There was some space between the cars on my end when contact was made. So I don't think either of them did anything wrong, but it was a bit close. And sometimes the internet gods do not smile on you.
No, they don't. And yeah, Larson, I think, just trying to push every sinew to try and catch up to Brandon Wilson, of course, after losing the lead off the start. Maybe that pushing and that, running the limit is what may have led to the contact. McGill going to get through on Menino down in towards turn 1. Nothing that Menino can do as we see the Valhalla car sweep through. But so tricky, really tricky moment for the two teammates. They're not going to be happy with each other, but, I mean, they're going to have to make up somehow. They're part of the same outfit.
Oh, slow down there for Austin McGill. He's had a terrible run here over the last lap and a half. Menino gets back past him. McGill was trying so hard all that time to find a way past Miguel Rios, but now he finds himself some 3 seconds behind him now with everything that's happened to him over the last lap or two. That's a shame.
Yeah, it's been a difficult 10 minutes, really, for Austin McGill. Been looking for moves, been looking to try and pick a way through, but it's just not been there for him. Yes, he's ahead of Jeff Evans, but he's still behind the likes of Menino, and he's falling further back behind that train that includes Finch, Wilborn, and Rios as well. So, not the best of 5 minutes, but he's still there. He's still within range to keep himself battling throughout the rest of this race. So all hope is by no means lost. And he can definitely try and find his way back towards the top 5 here. You can see that train of cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all in a line, all not too far away. Definitely chances for him.
Well, catching the slipstream off Dave Menino, keeping up the pace. 2 battles at the moment in GTP, this one right here, and also Finch versus Wildman for 4th place. They're the only 2 cars within a second of each other on track there. And actually, going up from 4, make it 5, because it looks like Miguel Rios is starting to catch up to Wildman as well. But for now, keep an eye on McGill as he catches the slipstream off his fellow Cadillac. going to be hard work for him to get a bit further up, though. Remember, he's still got what is now a 4-second gap just about to Miguel Rios there in the foreground. So will the Cadillac's straight line speed advantage carry through? Or will they have to wait for the pit stops to try and make something work?
It only takes one difficult Porsche curves stuck behind a slower car. You really close that kind of gap down, and a little mistake can result from it. We'll hope it's not lost. But yeah, I think pit stop's going to be in the back of the minds, or coming to the forefront of the minds of the drivers now. Of course, we're getting towards half race distance. We're going to be looking at pit stops probably in about 10-15 minutes time, depending on when those fuel tanks start to run dry. But I think when we see Brown and Wilson in, we're likely to see pretty much everybody else follow suit, and the battles will resume pretty much immediately on the exit. But then it leads to questions about, can drivers nail the pit stop specifics? Of course, getting into the pit lane as quickly as you can, getting out of the pit lane, stopping in your box. They don't seem like they're significant parts, but you can lose a second or two by missing your marks, and that could be crucial in a tight train like this.
Yeah, certainly could. Any mistake is worth something to everyone else in a race like this. Well, gently on your way out, Brandon Wilson up in the lead by some margin here, and is the fastest car on track. Set a 3:19.8 on the last lap, but it didn't officially count for the fastest lap. He got an off track somewhere along the way. Meanwhile, McGill ever closer here to Dave Menino. Make as much curb as you possibly can through Dunlop. Got to be careful of the off-track and the slowdown. He's trying to find a way through here at the S's, but just cannot get it done. It's so difficult to make moves in that sequence of the circuit. What you really got to do is set up the exit of Tertre Rouge here, but it's very difficult to do when you're following someone. These GTPs might be good at following each other, but you still got to think about aero push. Meanwhile, further back, Nicholas Schwartz, a little bit too hot into the forward chicane, had to find the gravel trap and get himself back going.
Yeah, he's gone nearly halfway back to the Porsche curves, trying to get himself spun back around again, but he is back around without damage, and that's going to be the key here. Move in the offing, though, down in towards the first chicane at the Mulsanne. That's going to be done. Great, effective move. Menino has got absolutely no answer, and Austin McGill up into P7. Let's see what he can do from here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is looking good now for Austin McGill. I mean, he's not going to get much slipstream advantage, but at the very least, he can say that he's made that move now. Meanwhile, here is Alex Crow, the man who had a terrible lap one with 2 spins. He is one of the fastest of our LMP2 drivers. He started in 3rd. And he's steadily finding his way up the field again, back up to 7th spot, but he's got a long way to make up time here. At the moment, his difference to the lead is 32.5 seconds, and with 30 minutes still to go in the race, he'd have to gain more than a second per minute, which I don't think is going to happen.
No, Hazard to agree with you on that one. It's a bit of a tool. I mean, stranger things have happened at sea, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a bit of, well, it'd be one of the greatest comebacks in PRL history, wouldn't it, realistically, if he was to close that kind of gap with 30 minutes remaining, especially when you consider how much, what kind of percentage of the rest of the race they're going to be spending at full throttle. Because down the Mulsanne, down up towards Indianapolis, you're just shipping time away. You might as well throw it away because you're not going to gain or lose anything. You're sitting there at full throttle, so there's 30 minutes, but realistically, you've got about, 15, 20 maximum of actually racing and, trying to gain or lose some time here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, here we go. Graham Wildman under pressure from Miguel Rios and up the inside, trying into the Porsche curves. Oh, that was a bit of a brave move there for him. As we have our first pit stops in the LMP2s. First pit stops of anyone. Lehman, Henneman, and Harmon all into the lane here.
Yeah, busy down pit road already. Not quite the flock that we maybe could have expected in the LMP2s, but there's definitely still a big of those still trying to come in. That's a wide moment, though. That's not the... Oh, it's just...
No, that's pit entry.
Ooh.
Oh, Stephen Finch going for the pits. First GTP to do so.
I think he missed the pit lane, though, because there is the pit lane coming out of there, but he wasn't on the pit lane, was he?
Yeah, he was. He was on pit entry. Kicking up a little bit of gravel there. You have to negotiate a chicane or two on your way down. So Stephen, well, this is a very significant call, I think. So we'll have to see how this works out for him. Bradley Holly and Aaron Beaver also coming in the GTPs. So away we go on the pit cycle. And these are all drivers, apart from Finch, who are a bit further down in the field and not really battling with anyone. So I don't know if we're going to get a big sort of picture of how this is going to work out. Rios and Wildman still battling with each other here down the Mulsanne. We saw Bradley Holly as well in the pits there, trying to salvage something from this race. He hasn't been quite up the top like he would have wanted to be, but he never gives up. He takes it one race at a time, does Bradley, and he's not the winningest driver in the PRL history for nothing. Meanwhile, Rios up to 4th place, absolutely blasting past Graham Wildman. This has been a good one for Miguel, and oh, Graham! Oh dear! Losing the rear end into the second of the chicanes. He's going to lose bulk time from this.
Yeah, it's awful for him to go around at that corner, clearly losing a little bit of concentration, maybe just a bit of downforce with the car in front of him that he hasn't experienced for a little while, but a big mistake to make, and that's going to put him a long way down to Jeff Evans even, who is sitting at the back of that train of 6 cars, well before we started getting in towards what could be the pit cycle for everybody here. I looked back at what we saw from Stephen Finch coming into the pit lane, and it was just the optical illusion of where the track goes and the angle looking at the wind that made me think he was off the road, but he really was. You were right. I was really scared, but we'll have to see it again. This is what it was like. Graham, rear end goes. There's no saving that one.
Looked like he hooked the inside of the curb there. I've never seen that happen before. Usually you're able to ride that curb very nicely. It is quite a raised curb, so inside wheels hooked it, and crucially he kept it out of the wall, which is good to see. So Wildman will live to fight another day as Jim Feliz here finishes his pit stop. Same for Thomas Dunn, Matthew Maturo. In fact, all of our GT3s making their way into the pit lane. At least all of the GT3s remaining in the race, of which there are only 7. We've lost 5 GT3s in this race so far. And only one of them seems to have been from contact with a prototype, so it hasn't been a good day to be a GT3 here.
It's not. That's not even necessarily from any of the lapping. It's just been some difficult starts to, well, difficult opening half an hour to the races for some of these guys, which is why we have so many drivers out of the race. But it means that for those that remain, even if they have some issues, even if they go off a couple of times, if they can finish the race, big points are in the offing for them just by attending and surviving longer than the rest. So definitely big chances for everybody else. Of course, that's not necessarily how you want to be able to pick up a big points haul, but if it's going to be given to you, you're never going to say no, are you?
Well, Dara, now is the time to keep your eyes peeled on the top of the GTP field, because Larson, Wilson, Ray, Rios, McGill, Menino, Evans, and Wildman. Darian Roy comes in, and I expect Nicholas Schwartz might follow them in here too, actually. No, it looks like Nicholas Schwartz might be staying out of the pits here. This is interesting from Nicholas, going a lap longer than everyone else. No, that's not it. He's going in. The timing screen betrayed me there. Wilson comes out ahead, 27-second pit stop. Timothy Larson comes out behind. Has he narrowed the gap at all? It doesn't look like it. 10.5 seconds is the gap between our leaders at the end of the cycle. This is the fight we really want to look at here. Miguel Rios in car 77 battling with Dave Menino, and it looks like he will beat Menino out of the pits there. McGill with a bit of a longer stop. Jeff Evans, 27.5 seconds. That's right up there with Wilson on pit stop times. So we haven't seen much of jigging and changing in the GTP order, but some cars have gotten closer together, and Menino might still have a chance of getting a top 4 here if he stays with Rios.
I think it's interesting between the top 2 because Wilson came into the pit lane, came out of the pit lane and gained about 2 or 3 seconds on Timothy Freese Larson throughout the process. Larson went up on the jacks though, so he's clearly taken at least a tyre or 2 for his car. Let's see if that makes much of a difference. Brandon Wilson not making that decision in the end, so we'll have to see how it pans out between the two of them. You'd have to say that it's probably going to be difficult to close a 12-second gap with 24 minutes remaining at the Circuit de la Sarthe, like we were talking before. So much of that time is going to be spent at full throttle, where there is no time gain or loss at all between them. So tricky for Larson to try and gain this time back, and he's got to be careful not to overdrive the car, because he could very easily, create a mistake from himself from pushing too hard and drop further down the order from the P2 that he currently inhabits.
Yeah, indeed. Also saw some dramas for Stephen Finch at the end of the previous lap. He lost it at the chicanes. So not only did he have a pretty slow pit stop, in fact, the slowest of all the GTPs, but he's had some trouble getting it going as well. And now Finch is back in 7th place, far away from this battle between Dave Menino and Austin McGill. McGill's still in a top 6, but could get a top 5 here. It looks like Menino's not been able to stay in touch with Miguel Rios, who is absolutely streaking away in that Ferrari.
Great race pace in that 77 car. I mean, he's going to be trying to chase after the top 3. There's no doubt about that. But it's just a case of whether he can or not. Austin McGill's clearly had some pace as well. Oh no! Menino goes off. And I don't know how he's managed that. Clearly locked the rear end, I think, and spun it around. But that is a weird incident for him to have.
Yeah, first time I've seen Menino go for that kind of spin. It just looks like on the turn-in point, the rear end just wasn't loaded up enough. So, unfortunately, around he went, back to 8th spot, and has completely lost touch with Austin McGill now. 9 seconds the gap, and he's got Finch and Evans in between them as well. Well, this is the onboard here. Yeah, you can see he turned in, but the rear just flipped, and that happened way too quick for even the best to react to. Oh,
yeah, very weird. Oh, moment as Caruso's gone off. That's how I think it's in the foreground. Yeah, that is. Caruso's off the road, just out of the pit lane, that is.
Oh, yeah, it is. Was leading LMP2 and on his way to another victory, but the pit stop has gone all kinds of wrong for him. Well, not the pit stop, but the run out of it. So he re-enters the racetrack nicely, but... oh, yeah, those bumps, man. Those bumps on the entry into Dunlop really unsettle you. And he couldn't get it going in time. His teammate Ryan Long then moved back to the lead of the race. But it actually looks to me like Caruso has gotten the lead back, interestingly. So... yeah, there's been a couple other things that have gone on there in the LMP2 fight as well. Meanwhile, Alex Crow has had a fantastic run through the pits, a very quick pit stop, and he's up to 4th place now. His pace certainly showing that he could have been fighting for victory were it not for those spins on lap 1.
Absolutely could have been. I just want to very quickly touch on Ryan Long because we were mentioning him. I think he has damage, and I don't know that, but just watching that time gap to Alex Caruso, it is just growing and growing. I mean, it was 7 seconds when you started mentioning it. I don't know what has happened to Long. Has he had contact? Oh, here we go.
Yes.
This is why.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah, there'll be damage on that car.
Yeah, he was fresh out of the pits as well, lost it into Tetra Rouge, and the rear end getting into the tyre barrier. That's not ideal. You need the rear end to be in shape in those LMP2s. That's where most of the downforce is generated. Well, here's Alex Crow in the Majors Esport 990, battling with Caleb Lehman at the moment. But it looks like he might have the pace that he needs to keep it going into the top 4. And we've just heard that Timothy Larson has gotten a black flag. That is an iRacing issued black flag. And you know what? If it's not for speeding in pit lane, it might be for the incident limit. That has bitten Larson a couple of times this season.
It has. I mean, it's a lot of things that have bitten Larson today. Not least the start. Let's have a look in ultra slow motion. They couldn't quite get slower than this. Let's see. 1, 2. I mean, they should be knocked down, shouldn't they? Those bollards. I mean, his head's gone through one of those bollards. He's absolutely smashed into those.
Yeah, certainly has, and that is outside track limits. That is an off track and puts him over the incident limit. the second place man in GTP. He has had such incredible pace. He has taken wins this season, but it just seems that keeping that incident limit down is one of the things holding him back from really fighting Brandon Wilson for the championship. So we're going to be seeing Larson go for a drive through the pits, and he's definitely going to lose second spot from that. Question is, will he still stay on the podium? We keep our eyes on 8th and 9th. Graham Wildman now battling with Darian Roy. Both of these drivers have had their own sets of issues in this race. Let's see if Wildman will be able to keep Roy behind him here as they come up on the LMP2 774 of Ian Cabana, running last at the moment in LMP2, but crucially keeping it clean. Ian has been one of those drivers who hasn't set the timing screens alight. We haven't given him a huge amount of airtime over the season, but you always count on him being there.
You can, and he's there once again. There's always, as Larson comes into the pit lane, there's always a lot of drivers who just stick around. They're just there, they exist, and they're able to pick up positions on drivers who are having difficult evenings, and even if they don't quite have the pace, they're just able to pick up the points, and that's how they can get themselves into championship fights. I think Zach Hebert's a great example of that. A very good driver in an LMP3 in the PRL, not necessarily a driver that wins many races, but always gets in the top 5 come rain or shine, and he is a great example of that. There's more examples of that in this series as well, and with 3 categories it means that there's more chance for drivers to almost go unnoticed in some of these championships and then pop up towards the end of the season despite not having some of the headline results.
Yeah, indeed. It's all about getting points in the PRL. Every position practically gets points in this league, one of the largest online racing communities in the world. Well, as Derek Heiberger continues to cruise to what's looking like a very comfortable victory, potentially, in GT3, any Dave Menino fans won't be too happy to hear that he just pulled off the circuit and escaped after running deep at Mulsanne chicane number 1. I think he might have been in danger of exceeding the incident limit too, so that's another GTP we can cross off the list. We'll see if Derek Heiberger can cross another win off his list here. Alex Caruso up behind him here in the 89. Going to be a change between LMP2 and GT3 right here. And, Hyperion have been the star team in the non-GTP classes this season. Heiberger consistently on top in the GT in that Acura, and Alex Caruso seems to have the LMP2 sorted out more than just about anyone else.
Yeah, it's been really impressive to see Caruso just being able to, even with that little mistake on the edge of the pit lane, just be able to pull away. Heiberger as well, looking for his 4th GT3 win in his PRL career. And Caruso looking for, I believe, his 7th win, indeed his 7th win in the LMP2s, and he's going along so well. It's just been almost impermeable at the front of the field. Also been incredible to see Brandon Wilson have another good result, going for his 5th win in the GTP. So all 3 class leaders experience in the positions that they currently find themselves in, and you can tell the gaps they're building are really impressive to see.
This is the GTP battle for 11th. We're looking at Joseph Blommel and Nicholas Schwartz in the green Cadillac. I think maybe an Aston Martin AMR-inspired paint scheme there, potentially. And Blommel, the teammate to Miguel Rios, who holds the podium spot at the moment for this Eclipse team in the Ferrari. They got to keep an eye out behind though, because I was noticing the Porsche 963 of Aaron Beaver starting to catch up to them. These two have been setting 324s and they've got traffic. Beaver's last lap was a 323.6, more than a second faster than these two, and oh no, around goes Ian Cabana. It looks like a bit of a miscommunication between the classes there.
Yeah, not good at all. He is off the road, and Ian probably with some complications between himself and the others coming through Indianapolis. Difficult part of the circuit to really nail and know exactly what your rivals are going to be doing. But Cabana's going to be fuming. I think it's fair to say. I think he's trying to get out of the way, but again, the communication between the cars not ideal.
Yeah, Ian had a slide by himself there on the exit of the corner, and oh, hello. I think that's Blommel. Blommel just had a big off in the Porsche curves, and now Beaver's looking to get by Schwartz.
I just about saw it in the live inset. He's come off of the road, spun into the wall. That is a very damaged car. Off comes Schwartz as well. Beaver's going to inherit P10 or P11 here, but that's a dramatic half of a lap in the GTPs in the final quarter of the race.
Certainly is. And Blommel did this all on his own. Yeah, they're side by side, but you'll see that turning in here, Blommel just loses the rear end, swings it around, and both of them come together. So now Nicholas Schwartz has damage. He's had to come into the pits from that. So Aaron Beaver, simply by minding his own business, has just gained 2 free positions.
There's worse things that could have happened in that for Aaron Beaver. I'm sure he was pretty pleased to be up into the top 11. Sights maybe set on a top 10 by the end of the race. Going to be a bit of a tall task though, with Bradley Holly, the man with the T-cam. 15-20 seconds in front of him, and 13 minutes to go. I think he'd need to have a little bit of help in that regard. This is on board with Blommel as he comes into the corner. That rear end's gone without touching any curbs, without touching any paint. It's just not the right line, and that's him out of the race.
Yeah, well, Aaron Beaver finds himself in 11th, and if you look closely, I think this is going to be a callback to last week where Joey Tebbett and I had a discussion. Aaron Beaver with a chill paint scheme, as my normal co-commentator said, and he's just a chill guy. I said, oh, maybe we'll see chill guy on a sim racing livery at some point, and well, if you look just at the rear fender, it looks like Aaron Beaver has done that. So thank you very much, Aaron, making our dreams a reality right there. Keep an eye out. You'll just see it before the rear wheel. Yep, there's the chill guy, and just by being chill, Aaron Beaver finds himself in a good position for a potential top 10 result if he holds on to this. He does have 11 seconds to make up to Bradley Holly, but I mean, considering the last lap or so, all he has to do is keep driving.
Yeah, and see what comes to him. I mean, he's got a livery that suggests, because he's a chill guy, with almost like the ocean feel to it. White sands, blue water, it's great. I mean, he's clearly having a good time in the top 11. Let's hope he can maybe have a go at the top 10. It probably would require a mistake from Bradley Holly to close that 18-second gap it is now between the two of them. But he's lapping pretty nicely, picking up some good points. And sometimes if you don't necessarily have that, alien level pace, it's good to pick up some points anyway.
Yeah, certainly. Consistency is key, as they always say. And often in sports car racing leagues, I mean, these races are only an hour long, which is a short sprint by sports car standards. But if you endure, if you keep it safe, the result will still come to you, as we've seen multiple times this season for many drivers. Well, coming up on 11 minutes to go, and we check back in with Brandon Wilson. 25 seconds, the lead that he holds over Nathan Ray. And this is the reason why Brandon Wilson is leading the championship. And he led it from almost the very start. He has just nailed it every single time. He puts the time in, he puts the hard work in, and he gets more out of it as well. He might be on his own. He's not getting any slipstream from anyone, but he is still consistently the fastest car on track. 3 minutes and 20 seconds was his last lap time, and everyone else hasn't even been able to break into the 321s.
It's been absolutely scintillating pace for Brandon Wilson, as we see a couple of cars start to jostle for position. This is including Friis Larsen down in towards the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. He's fighting alongside the number 51 of Jeff Evans as they try and make their way through. This is for P6, of course. They'll make their way towards the second of the chicanes. I was going to very quickly mention that Brandon Wilson is, of course, in the 444, heading for his 4th win of the season, which is a nice little bit of a crossover there, and it's been so impressive to see him time and time again just extend his gap in the league, not really look back, and that's why he's been such a force to be reckoned with in the championship. That gap is going to extend to Friis Larsen to probably over 20 points tonight.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Larson trying to find his way past Jeff Evans here. Jeff in the Cadillac and Larson with a great run down the straight. He will get up the inside under brakes, but not quite ahead at the apex, and makes contact. And Jeff Evans will have to yield that position, and that's going to be another 4 incident points to Larson. He's got to be very careful now. He could be in danger of getting disqualified from the event if he overcomes that incident limit.
Yeah, the difficulty there for Larson was he almost wasn't committed enough on the inside. Slowed the car down in time. He clearly was going to make the corner with the car around the outside. Just didn't really have the commitment to make that move. That's where the contact occurred. And yeah, he's going to have to be very careful not to reach that incident limit. Here comes Jeff Evans on the number 48 of Sam Shreves as they make their way out of the out of Arnage up towards the Porsche curves. He's not going to be overly joyed, but yeah, it's just not been a good night for Fries Larson. Up and down the order like a yo-yo, and yeah, he's been a difficult customer to race with tonight.
Yeah, it hasn't gone his way at all, and yeah, that's going to be a big blow for the championship, unfortunately. Well, regardless, we will find our way out of the Porsche curves here with Jeff Evans. Still holding on to 7th spot, which is good considering everything that's happened to him over the course of this race. It's just been a race of who can survive, really, and that's been the definition of this season. The drivers that have survived are the ones that come out on top, and Austin McGill has survived better than most in this GTP class, up 9 positions. In fact, if I recall, Austin McGill did not set a qualifying time. So, you know, at a track like Le Mans, it's not the worst thing to have happen. You can pick up the slipstream, you can work the strategy, you can find your way up, and just by keeping it clean, find yourself in 4th place. It's been very good from Austin today.
Yeah, really impressive from Austin McGill. I mean, he's still maybe in search of that podium, but a P4 even so, that would be a fantastic result in the end. He's plugged away. He's been able to make some moves. He's struggled a little bit. I mean, Miguel Rios has been another driver. They were towards the back of that 6-car train and were able to work their way towards the front of it, and really impressively so. I think he's just going to be a little bit too far back on Miguel Rios in the forefront there to make a move. Only a couple of laps remain in this race, with it being such a long lap, but definitely positive to be taken from this race, and confidence I think that can be carried over into the final 2 rounds of the season.
And of course, we go to Algarve and Spa for the final 2 rounds of this championship, and you know, I think two classic European road circuits, but Algarve a bit more of a modern classic than Spa. Only built in the late 2000s, but it is one of the most well-received quote-unquote new racetracks of the last 20 years. Oh god, I've just reminded myself that 2005 was 20 years ago.
I mean, I don't really want to make you feel old, Reese, but that
don't
was
worry, I already did that to myself. Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
So yeah, I also know how long ago that was.
Okay, I'm gonna go and get a.
Sorry, Joey will be back next week, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
Oh dearie me, yeah, turned 31 back in January, so I'm definitely feeling it now. Oh dear.
Sorry.
No need to apologize. Well,
so there's worse things. I could have said I was born in 07, 08. That could have been worse, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, oh man. Closer to 2050 than 1990 from Easy Mart Racing in the chat. Matt Benson, who we see racing in a lot of PRL series. Thank you very much for the happy birthday wishes. Well, actually, it's almost poetic that we're looking at car 26 because January 26th is my birthday. So that's a nice little coincidence right there. Thank you. That was Matthew Maturo we were looking at there, 4th place in GT3. Very nicely done so far. He and Thomas Dunn have been some of the star performers of the GT3 field this race, and I believe it was Dunn getting a podium as well at Long Beach. So some good times to be a blue chip racing Porsche in the latter stages of this season.
Yeah, they've picked up some good pace, haven't they, over the last couple of races. Teams working well, maybe finding a little bit in terms of the setups to be able to increase their pace a little bit in comparison to some of their competitors, but a podium that seems like it's on the cards. Just have to survive the final couple of laps here, and the 163 of Thomas Dunn will be done on the podium, which would not be a bad result at all. And I think that not just him but the team as well can take some big positives from that. Maybe look towards the end of this season, looking towards next season as well, particularly in the GT3s, to try and put together a bit of a title challenge.
Yeah, Hyperion have been on top pretty much every round so far, bar Road America, where Valhalla Motorsports took the win in the hands of Jeff Kaufhold. So if you're a GT3 team, the best you can hope for is second in these late stages of the season. But it's been a consistent run from Blue Chip, and they can come away from this with a mere 3 minutes to go in this race with the almost guaranteed podium here. Meanwhile, Alex Crow, oh dear, not the first time we've seen him have a problem with the rear end in this race. The 990 having a small off at Mulsanne certainly could have been worse, but looks like he might have locked himself into 4th place with that.
Yeah, and it's little mistakes that can cost you, particularly down at the Mulsanne corner. It's difficult to really nail that part of the lap. Wilson coming through the Portuguese will get one more lap after this. Fun little fact for you, Reese. One of my colleagues actually lives about 100 metres down the road from Mulsanne corner. So that every year the race is on, they go stand at the corner and watch all the cars go through, and they get free tickets and all that. So, yeah, maybe they're just going to visit. Who knows?
Oh wow, yeah, that's certainly great to hear. I've got a couple of former sim racing teammates who live very close to the Mount Panorama circuit as well. So if I ever go to Bathurst, there is some potential free accommodation there for me, which is nice. It's always good to have connections. Well, white flag. And Brandon Wilson negotiating the first couple of corners here on the final lap of the race. He started well, overcame the sort of chaos of the start there, where Nathan Ray got the massive jump on everyone else, and all he's had to do for now is just strut his stuff out there, set those laps, practically work it out as a long practice session in this race with the occasional amount of traffic. I don't know what more I can say about Brandon Wilson. You know, the last lap that he set was a mere 2,000th slower than his best lap time so far.
Yeah, just that metronomic consistency is what is getting him to the position that he's in. It's been impressive to see. If anything, it's funny that, obviously his name is Brandon Wilson 5. He's heading for his 5th PRL race win and his 4th of the season in the 444. So all the numbers are working out for him. I mean, 30 seconds he's about to get on Nathan Ray. Incredible. Again, at a circuit where a lot of the time you spend at full throttle, so you're not going to be gaining or losing any time. To gain half a minute over the course of an hour is absolutely stellar, and he just shows exactly why he has been that target man all the way through the season, and why he looks like at the moment he's heading towards a title in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's nailed practically every acceleration point at this circuit, the most important parts, and despite the Acura not quite being the fastest car in a straight line, from word in the chat, it seems that the Ferraris might have been the best down the Mulsanne this round. Wilson has made that Acura work for him, and most of the tracks this season have really suited the Acura. It's a car that likes to corner, handles like a dream, and well, make sure that you live in that dream for as long as possible, because there is a tire update coming for the GTPs and LMP2s. Of course, the current model of tire is a little bit faster than it should be, so it will be interesting to see how the new tires coming in the next iRacing official season affect the balance of performance of these cars. For now, though, Wilson only has the Porsche curves to negotiate. And we do have a couple of battles forming on the last lap here in our GTP classes. Timothy Larson taking that drive-through penalty for incident limit. Looks like he might have to find his way past Stephen Finch here. Still a top 5 on the cards for our P2 man in the championship. But the run to the line now for Brandon Wilson. Almost a perfect race for him. He has led the most laps. He has set the fastest lap. And his pace, as Dara said, has been metronomic in its consistency. 4, 3, 2, and 1. The last corners of the lap, and the checkered flag is here for Brandon Wilson. Another victory in the GTP Classic, extending his championship lead.
What a way to end it as well. I mean, he's doing burnouts across the line pretty much, isn't he? He's enjoying life through the final few corners. Fries Larson trying to pinch that move past Finch for P5. Let's see if he can do it at the final chicane. It would have to be quite an outlandish send. There's a GT3 that's going to get in the way as well as they work their way through the last couple of kinks. Oh my word, Larson nearly goes for the move. Is he going to go for it? Sending it, not quite. Finch comes it off. This is getting dicey.
Oh, it looks like there won't be a chance for Larson to find his way through at the final corner, though. And Stephen Finch will get a top 5 for his troubles. Magnificent job. Miguel Rios was also catching up to Nathan Ray on the last lap, too. There was almost a change for second. Meanwhile, Darian Roy and Bradley Holly fighting with each other here within a second of each other. And looks to me like Darian might just take this one. Bradley is nailing every braking zone, though. He's trying his best. Clatters over the curbs at the final corner. Couldn't get it done. Still, a good finish for Holly getting into the top 10. There's Alex Caruso taking victory in LMP2. And I think he'll be happy that that one's over. It was a very tough race for everyone in the LMP2 class. And we still have half a lap to go for our GT3 leader, Derek Heiberger.
Yeah, he's got the pleasure of the, well, I'd say the pleasure of the city, pleasure of the French countryside, to just allow himself to wait it out, just get himself to the line. Of course, he's only got, I think, Jim Felice, who's also going around one more time. Everybody else was lapped once. Actually, no, Thomas Dunn also going around one more time. But these are the last 3 cars that we will see cross the line. And Heiberger again, what consistency from him. He'll also have a pretty much 30-second lead over anybody else. Incredible to see those gaps in all 3 classes nearly identical come the end of the race.
Yeah, indeed. The number 98 Acura has been, I think, consistently the fastest of the GT3s all season long. Of course, the McLaren of Luke Wallace has stolen a couple of victories here and there this season, but Derek Heiberger leads the championship, and for very good reason. He has put the time in, just like Brandon Wilson. He's taken advantage at tracks where the Acura has been suited, and this NSX will come across the line in the French countryside as the sun sets to take an emphatic victory in the 3rd last round of the season. I wonder how Algarve and Spa are going to treat Derek Heiberger, because it's definitely getting up to crunch time. This is the point where you need to be getting results like this. Checkered flag out for GT3, and Derek Heiberger is your victor.
Well deserved as well. Jim Felice will come through for P2, and Thomas Dunn will come through for P3 as well, but no one's catching Heiberger, and you'd have to say that it's going to be tough for anybody to catch Heiberger to the end of the season now as well. I mean, Caruso's pretty much wrapped it up with a bow on top in the LMP2s. Wilson and Heiberger have taken that one step closer to their titles, with the finales being in just a fortnight's time.
Yeah, indeed. It's really getting to the end of the season now, isn't it? Felice, 2nd place magnificent stuff. He's certainly had some rough goes at it. Road America, some self-inflicted problems for him, but a good run at Le Mans for him. Well, here's the GTP results then. Wilson, Ray, and Rios are your podium, and a lot of people happy that Nathan Ray managed to get P2 there. Austin McGill and Stephen Finch round out your top 5. Larson almost got Finch there. Jeff Evans all on his own in P7. Graham Wildman as well, 53 seconds back from the lead. Unfortunate for Graham, certainly could have been a better time there. And that's your GTP field run and done there, with retirements for Schwartz, Blommel, and Menino. In LMP2, Alex Caruso taking victory from Ryan Long, but it certainly wasn't an easy run. Sam Shreves almost got Ryan Long at the line there. Alex Crow finishes 4th place. Fantastic recovery from his first lap there. Lehman and Henneman your top 6, with Harmon, Berquist, Cabana, and Brewer rounding out your top 10. Brewer, the first of our LMP2 retirements there, and some unfortunate runs as well for the end of our GT3 field. But up the top, Heiberger, Feliz, and Dunn are your podium. Maturo, Brennan, and Ostrich a lap down, where we're passed by the GTP leader. Thomas Baker, one of the last finishers there, with Luke Wallace having to retire. They actually managed to get back out there, I think. Schmidt was definitely a retirement. And, well, Valhalla's Jeff Kaufhold and Matthew Wyckoff, neither of them finishing the race there in the Ferraris. Doug Evans was out on lap 1 in the Waterback Corvette. Such a shame for him. But we have an opportunity to chat to our top drivers here, the podiums in our classes. We start things off with Brandon Wilson. Overall victory number 4 this season for you, and it's all coming up 4.
Yeah, it feels good to be able to come away with a victory this week. I was talking to Timothy earlier this week, and we were actually pretty worried that the Acura would be at a pretty steep deficit this week, but yeah, I just managed to pull enough out of the car and was able to pull away during the race.
And with the problems that Larson suffered over the course of this race, that is the championship lead extended into the final 2 rounds for you, Brandon. It's certainly going to be a tough slog at Algarve and Spa, but I think you're more than capable. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Brandon Wilson, victory in GTP. And we move to Nathan Ray. Dara Thacker stood by with our P2 finisher in GTP.
And Nathan, welcome in. Congratulations again on the podium. Great consistency from you to get up there. You were just a little bit too far back for the win today, but can you take some positives from this race into the final 2 weeks?
Lost for words. Yeah, it was a great race. I got really lucky in that, you know, for whatever reason, Timothy just kind of like didn't go on the green light, and it gave me a little bit of a head start on everyone.
Looking behind you, of course, you had to defend. You defended quite well. How difficult was it to try and keep some of the drivers behind? Of course, Slipstream's so powerful here.
Yeah, my biggest concern was going to be the Ferraris, because they like easily, like with the wind we would have had on the straightaway tonight, it was just about a 10 kilometer an hour top speed difference on the Mulsanne. So quite lucky. I'm super glad and lucky I didn't have to deal with many of them, but I was certainly feeling the heat from Rios at the end. My front tires were giving up the ghost a little bit.
But they held on for you just enough to get that P2, Nathan. Well done. And hopefully we'll get to speak to you in a couple of weeks' time. Or in the next couple of weeks, I should say.
Yep, thank you.
Brilliant stuff from...
P2 in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant stuff from Nathan Ray. It was also brilliant from Miguel Rios, who takes 3rd place. So that's 2 podiums in the last 2 weeks, Miguel. You must be happy that the Ferrari was good both at Long Beach and at Le Mans here. Straight line speed seemed to be the advantage there.
Yeah, at the very start I was struggling because the tires were like super cold. And I was getting frustrated with it myself, saying like, what's wrong with me? And so I just had to like keep it together, and I had to give a firm no a couple times to Austin Miguel, because I already had too many overtakes on stream from him around the outside. So yeah, I was just like, no, I have to hold on for it this time. Other than that, really, I was hounding down Nathan Ray, but there just wasn't enough time for me to finally to put the full-on aggression and attack on him. But good all on everyone. and I really appreciate that. It was a very fun time here today.
Yeah, certainly was. Well, congratulations on the podium, Miguel. Hopefully see you in Portugal next week.
Yep, hopefully see you guys there. Thank you.
Miguel Rios right there with a magnificent podium. We go to our LMP2 class now. Dara is stood by with Alex Caruso.
Alex, welcome in. Again, fantastic win for you, keeping up that consistency. It was all going so well, and then that pit stop happened, and there was a little mistake on the exit. Tell us what happened.
Oh boy, no, it wasn't a mistake at all. It's just part of a really advanced tire warming strategy we're working on here at Hyperion. That's why Ryan pulled it off right after I did. But no, seriously, it was just a bad bounce. I wasn't being careful enough on the cold tires. It was just embarrassing, but mistakes happen, and I was lucky to be able to brush that one off and come back on track with just a bruised ego.
Didn't stop you from winning the race and extending that championship lead. But Alex, congratulations, and we'll hope to speak to you in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and just want to say big shout out to Hyperion. It's our first lockout on a podium for the LMP2 this season, so really proud of my teammates. Couldn't do it without them, so thank you guys again for the broadcast, and thank you to everyone at Hyperion Racing.
Brilliant
Thank you, Alex,
stuff.
and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, indeed. Alex Caruso should be very happy with yet another victory on the cards there. His teammate Ryan Long getting pole position and still a second place in the race for you, Ryan. You must be happy with how things went there, but I noticed both for you and Alex, the exit of the pit stop didn't quite go as planned.
Yeah, no, these cold tires are something else, and I thought I was playing it safe, sticking behind the GT3 through Tetra Rouge, and just lost it one way, tried to correct, overcorrected, and went the other way, and ended up with some minor back-end damage that made it a little scary throughout the race, but held on to it, and that's what matters.
Yeah, indeed. Second place and a great haul of points coming into the final 2 rounds of the season. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, first podium, so I'm happy with it. Should have been a lot more throughout the season, but hoping to finish out the season with a few more.
Absolutely. That is significant first podium there for Ryan Long. Big for him. And finally in LMP2, Sam Shreves getting onto the podium. It is a Hyperion lockout. Let's see what he has to say to Dara.
Yeah, Sam, welcome in. Congratulations on the podium. P3 in the end, a little bit off the back, only about a second off the back in the end of Ryan Long. Did you think you could get to the back of the number 11, or are you still happy to get the podium?
Honestly, I was convinced that I wasn't going to get him. I caught him up quite a bit because he had some damage, but I think I just got lucky on the fuel strategy through the whole race. So sometimes you just have races that work out. I think this was one of them.
Yeah, and a podium in the end for you is going to serve you nicely in the championship. But Sam, congratulations and good luck in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Sam Shreves right there, and bringing it home in third place in the win slot in GT3. Once again, it was Derek Heiberger. Well, I tell you what, Derek, the support from your teammate in the McLaren vanished halfway through, but it looks like you had the pace in the Acura here.
So, first off, I'm gutted for Luke. I honestly think he was going to beat me today. I started to struggle on the tires later on in the race. He was fuel saving. He might have been able to go a lap longer. And to be honest, once he got into the draft, he was going to pass me in the straight. So, like I said, it was pretty much his race, and it's unfortunate it happened for him. But, I mean, the win's a win. It's just not how I wanted it to happen.
Yeah, of course. Well, regardless, a win is a win, and the points will reflect that, with you extending your championship lead going into the final 2 rounds of the season. And we'll see if Algarve suits the Acura nicely too.
I've done some testing there in the past, and I'm pretty excited. Don't want to spoil the surprise, but it should be pretty fun.
Excellent stuff. Thanks for joining us, Derek.
Yep, thank you guys.
Derek Heiberger right there. And finally, we have our second place man in GT3, Jim Felice, is stood by with Dara Thacker.
Yeah, Jim, welcome in. P2 in the end, not too much to report, quite quiet, not a little bit too far behind Derek in front, and a nice comfortable a gap back to Thomas behind. How pleased are you to pick up points? Comparison to Thomas Dial, you're battling for P3 in that championship and get away from the rest of that pack that you are pretty close to in the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, obviously a really good result to finish second, so happy with that. I think the Hyperion guys have the championship, wrapped up front, or at least Derek does. And so, battle for third becomes a little more interesting. And, that's all good stuff. I think, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It was pretty uneventful for me. Just kind of a lonely race in second. So, happy to finish on the podium, and overall a pretty good race.
Lonely, but garners you a lot of points as well. So good evening in the office. Jim, congratulations and good luck for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
And that's going to round things off on our podium interviews and the end of the show for tonight, Dara. Another great round of this series, and, well, we have 2 more to go. I'm really looking forward to Algarve.
Yeah, a circuit that we've seen a lot of multi-class racing on of late in the last few years in the real world, and it's gone pretty well. It's going to be a really exciting race, potentially with championships on the line as well. I think a lot of the teams and drives are going to be going there with a lot of high hopes to see who can come out with the happiest results.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on this fantastic round of the PRL, LMP2 GTP and GT3 series. This time next week, we will be in virtual Portugal at the Autodromo do Algarve. But for now, Brandon Wilson, Alex Caruso, and Derek Heiberger can enjoy their victories for 6 more days. I'm Reese Gardner, Dara Thacker alongside me in the comms box, Hugo Luis behind the scenes here on RaceSpotTV. We'll see you next time.